the self therapy, yeah. Where I go into any recent altercation, quarrel.
Anyone else?
Based on like communication.
We have clients sometimes that we've talked about how it's difficult sometimes when you have clients that think differently, and you want to try to stay.
Yeah, we come up here, see today.
Oh. I was just reading.
Sorry, thought you had the wrong.
Sometimes right now, like, with the difficulties of being, I guess, I don't know if it's like in the minority of the way that we think, but it's hard to, I feel like we've come to a time where now we're in the closet, and to be able to speak freely about who you are and how you think, and I've had people say negative things about us not being vaccinated, or sometimes I wonder if people are turning away from us if they know that we're unvaccinated. But so sometimes those communications are difficult, I don't want to ever lie to people and tell them, like, during those times where people would sit in the chair and the first thing that they'd say is, I'm vaccinated, and I'd be like, oh, good for you, like, whatever, it's fine with me either way. But if people know that I'm not vaccinated, it would cause like a difficult communication. But I didn't want to lie and say that I am vaccinated to make them feel comfortable.
Right.
So sometimes, trying to find the right words for making people feel comfortable that you're not.
Yeah, so you can be your authentic self without worrying how the person is going to respond to you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very unfortunate that we live in a world like that. And that's the reason for places like this. So just keep this in mind. If there are more lockdowns coming as they will seem to be bent upon, then we have to solve this problem of not being able to communicate freely and being able to be accepted. The world thinks that, oh, Muslims do this or believe this about LGBTQ, whereas it's not the case. The Prophet Lut, we know that he lived amongst homosexuals. He just happened to say, I know a better way. And, and that's, but there was never any inhumane aspect. He lived with them as brethren. So Muslims are not allowed to judge anybody. So this is really, really crucial, first of all, for us all to understand, not to allow anybody to divide and conquer. And at this point, again, I want to before getting back to this, I want to address again the Muslims and say, we don't have time for the dividing us into these different sects and all of this nonsense, like Diobandi, a lot of you won't know what that is, but everyone's bent on dividing and conquering, or even within a family, within spouses, third parties getting involved. I mean, these vaccinations or the spike proteins, if not the vaccinations, or COVID itself, or whatever the toxic components are dividing and conquering, and making just people fight and argue. So many marriages are, if not at the level of breakdown, or just any relationship, everything is on the brink. So we want to solve that. In order to do that, we have to be able to converse about the controversial things. to be able to converse about anything, to be accepted. That is a human right. So just as, yes, we agree, LGBTQ, anyone should be accepted anywhere for their authentic self. And they have a right to that as a human being. So we need to solve this. We need to learn the techniques of how to communicate, especially when it's controversial. Because it's easy when it's not controversial. The Prophet Muhammad said, Silat al-Rahim is the quality that we have to implement, which means keeping our ties of kinship. And he said, this doesn't mean that those you get along with in your family, make sure you invite them. Of course, you're going to invite them and sit with those you get along with. This means those you don't get along with, go out of your way to see them. That's the hard work we have to do. Really. That's the hard work that at least those of us who realize, okay, if not us, then who? Who's going to do it? We're just going to sit at night and dream about a world of peace. We have to make the world peace. So hopefully, with these kinds of communication, reminders and places where people can say, oh yeah, Moon's Hair Salon, I feel really safe there because I know the owner is going to welcome me regardless of my background and where I stand or where my stance is on anything. So I want to be able to do that, hopefully with more and more places and people. So as I travel, at the very least, I can share where those places will be. So hopefully by people hearing in talks like this, and it resonates in their heart, will say and reach out, you know what? Yeah, we should be able to talk to us. We can't discuss the tough things. So hopefully that happens. But in terms of the demo, what we want in the demo is to give me a specific altercation or miscommunication or something that actually happened, so I can get into the detail of how you give yourself self-therapy to empower yourself so that it does not hurt you. That's what I want to do. Because that's where empowerment comes from. It's from realizing that really we can control whether someone hurts us or not. That's the most empowering thing to know, because we cannot control the actions or the spewings of people. And that's when I said a mobile crisis unit, what one of the aims we have is to purchase a coach, that says Sufi Salon and Here to Hear You, where a person who feels, just altered state of mind or altered states, and everything's like April had. What is your state? Because our states, we allow to change based on what a person says to us. But actually, we can change our state by changing the way we think and the way we pay attention and be a person of the moment. Ibn al-Waqt is called in Arabic. Being a person of the moment means checking in with our body. Well, what is making me so out of control here? Because so-and-so said this to me, I'm all of a sudden out of state. Like we know we get like this. Oh my God, how dare that person say this to me? Oh my God, and we ruin our whole day based on all of these thoughts in our mind. That it's all going down in the mind. It might not even be what that person was trying to say to us. So there's one element of a person hurting us. There's another element where we have an interpretation of what that person said, that is all going down in our mind. That's the part I want to teach, how we can parlay that, lay that aside. That's the part that will empower us to know that regardless of what a person says to us, we can continue to make the safe haven around us. So in the Quran, there is a verse where God tells us the rights of people. Your neighbors have a right, your relatives have a right. All these people have rights of safety, feeling safe from you, by you, through you. And one of them is ashab bil jambi, the people to your side, which means everyone here today, we have rights upon each other to give each other a space and feeling of safety. When we're standing in line with somebody, a true Muslim knows that if you're on a bus with somebody and let's say the bus became stranded, God forbid, or something, or nowadays with this airplane turbulence, which in many cases, is happening because the pilot maybe has this dysregulated heart rate, God forbid, because they have new rules now. They're allowed to still fly. And then you have all these turbulence going on in airplanes. Well, guess what? The Sahib al-Jambi becomes really important because you're both going through a space and time where you're both afraid. You're going to be holding on to each other, regardless of what their background is, what they stand for. You're not going to go, look, let me go on social media what to think about this topic. You're going to be holding each other's hands. So that's how we should be all the time. But so we, in terms of the demo, I need a specific example and just go through it so that we can empower ourselves. So just, this is a big aspect. Sahib al-Jambi, which is a verse from the Quran, the rights of people standing next to you. That happens a lot in life. We're in a space that is not our home, that is in public. So imagine all these public shootings going on. God forbid we're in any of those, but the people are next to us have rights. So there are many anecdotes written about a Muslim who truly implements this, sitting on a train, for instance, and noticing that the person to their right may have not realized that this train journey is a lot longer. Let's say it got stuck and then there were stops along the way, and now all of a sudden that person doesn't have a meal. And because the train ride itself wasn't going to provide a meal, guess what? It's up to you to provide that meal if you have extra. Or you're going to make it extra. Because if you care about that person next to you, that's the right thing. And they're not going to come and take your lunch back, but you should offer it. You should know and be aware and offer it. That's real teachings. So anyway, coming back, so hopefully that answers it. We need to make the world come around to that aspect, right? By just sharing these kinds of techniques with those around us. It's just addressing those around us at first. That's how concentric circles will get taken care of. So we worry about the local politics before the global politics. This is community right here. And that's how the lockdowns could have been solved. Having local community places to converge. That's partly why we want to do this. So that at least people could know, like I said, Roots hair salon, okay, I feel safe there. Next time a globalist announce a lockdown, don't be surprised if this becomes full.
Everyone's welcome.